Um, so today we're going to talk about the MAT events that we have going on and coming up that I want you all to be aware of and participate in, hopefully. And then I'll get into a kind of a grant program that MnDOT is putting on for bike and pedestrian infrastructure. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cannabis updates and local government regulations revolved around cannabis because that has been such a hot topic. It is really just the hot new thing right now. So I get a lot of questions about it, and I think it might be helpful to just go over that information again. All right, so MAT events. District meetings are happening right now. They go until August 29th. So information about when and where your district meeting will happen is on our website and available for you to see. Come to these meetings and you'll get information on local issues pertaining to your district. You'll hear from local legislators and get a chance to ask some questions. Hear presentations from MAT staff like Jeff and legal counsel such as myself, or Lori Stalker, our lead trainer, and get a lot of good information. Some districts have elections as well, not all of them. And if nothing else, you'll get a door prize and or an opportunity to win a door prize, and then an opportunity to kind of meet with and network with other township officers, bounce ideas off of each other, and get to know people who are in similar situations as you. So it's always a good opportunity. And then coming up, we also have our fall Legislative and Research Committee meeting, which is on September 13th of 2024. So the Legislative Research Committee develops, reviews, and recommends legislative action on behalf of the townships. The L&R Committee as a whole is called the General L&R Committee. They meet during the fall and after these district meetings, and then also at the annual meeting. So the General L&R Committee includes 5 subcommittees, including environment, government operation, taxes, transportation, and annexation. The subcommittees review, research, and recommend solutions or resolutions for legislative action. No motion passed or recommendations made at the subcommittees become legislative initiatives format until they're passed by these committees. So registration opens at 9 at the Holiday Inn Suites in St. Cloud. It's $90, including printed materials, program expenses, and then also lunch and refreshments and those kinds of things. You can also get a spouse or guest lunch for $20. And that registration closes on September 9th. So you want to make sure to get ahead of it before then. All right, next I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this bike and pedestrian infrastructure solicitation. So MnDOT reached out to us and let us know that State Aid for Local Transportation, SALT, is kicking off a 2024 active transportation and safe routes to school infrastructure solicitation on September 23rd. Those solicitations will run concurrently and provide 16 million, or a little over 16 million, and 8 million respectively for funding for eligible bicycle and pedestrian improvements. If you're interested in getting a grant for these projects, you'll want to make sure that the projects mitigate safety hazards related to interacting with vehicular traffic, create safe and comfortable environments for walking and biking, connect communities and key destinations, and boost public health. Any improvements funded by these grants will require that it's useful for at least 10 years and must be ready for construction within the next year or two, so before 2026. And the first month of solicitation will be more of a period for letters of intent. So this first month of September is to apply and submit to state aid staff to provide feedback on the application and strengthen readiness. The full application period will begin in November, on November 4th, and close on January 17th. Any project selections will be announced before April 30th of 2025, and infrastructure solicitations will have a request range from $50,000 to $1 million. MnDOT did establish a webinar for for this grant program. It starts in September, and you can go to the program website for access to details about those webinar or solicitation updates if you want to subscribe to their newsletter. Otherwise, they gave us that contact information if you're interested. That Stephen Prusak at state.mn.us, and you can email him for more information on this as well. All right, so cannabis update. There have been tons of questions regarding cannabis management and regulation lately coming our way. It's really a hot button issue right now. The Office of Cannabis Management is always the place you want to go with your questions. They have really great resources on their website, and they even have kind of like a local government's drop down bar with all the information that would pertain to our regulation and the information that we need. So it's really helpful to access their website. There's a lot of good information. But they also held a webinar called Implementing Chapter 342 Guidance for Local Governments on Adult Use Cannabis on August 9th at 10 a.m. So it's already been done, but they do have it recorded. It's on their website. I included the link here, but it's also on that local government's drop down on the Office of Cannabis Management's website. The webinar covered general implementation updates for 2024, the role of local governments in application and licensing, the role of local governments in compliance and enforcement, and then discussion with local representatives on examples of ongoing planning work. So there's a lot of good information in that webinar, and it's really helpful. So local government regulation, I'm going to give you just kind of a broad overview of what it looks like currently for township regulation and county regulation for cannabis. The local governments in Minnesota have various means of oversight for the cannabis market as provided by the new law, but they don't really have outright bans on cannabis businesses. So I've gotten a lot of questions of how do we ban cannabis businesses in our area, and there's not really a means to do that. There's limits of operation, but you can't limit what is provided beyond the cannabis law. So there are these retail restrictions. So local governments can limit the number of retailers allowed within their locality, such as 20, if there are 12,500 residents, they have to allow at least one retail location. So one retail location per 12,500 residents. There does not seem to be a similar limitation for cultivation registrations, so farming and growth registrations. These are for retail registrations, so it's not clear whether those restrictions will apply to the farming restrictions. And then there's also timing restrictions. So we can prohibit retail sales of cannabis between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Monday through Saturday, and then 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. that following day, so that you can limit when the cannabis is sold within the township. And then a big one, because townships aren't typically a hot location for cannabis retailers. They're typically more of a magnet for farming and maybe manufacturing. So zoning and land use is really going to be a big tool for townships in this law. The law doesn't restrict how local governments conduct the zoning designations for cannabis businesses, but they do restrict location. So local governments can prohibit the operation of cannabis businesses within 1,000 feet of a school or 500 feet of a daycare, residential treatment facility, or an attraction within a public park that is regularly used by minors, including playgrounds and athletic fields. While each local government conducts its zoning differently, each township conducts its zoning differently. Maybe some of you just use the county zoning. Some of you have your own zoning. A few themes have kind of emerged across the country. For example, cannabis manufacturing facilities are often placed in an industrial zone, or cannabis retailers are placed in commercial retail zones. So there is really kind of a theme to where these places are, where these cannabis businesses are placed in regular zoning lingo and jargon. Cannabis retail facilities align with general retail establishments and are prohibited from allowing consumption or use on site. So they're also required to have plans to prevent visibility of cannabis and hemp derived products to individuals outside that retail location. So they can't have people using the cannabis on site. So that's not something that you need to be concerned about. Any existing zoning ordinances you might have, these cannabis businesses should fall pretty clearly under those existing zoning ordinances, based on the license type or activities held by the cannabis business, whether they're farming or sales or manufacturing, things like that. There's types of licensing that'll be able to perform multiple activities, which could have different zoning implications. So in the same way, townships might zone a microbrewery as that predominantly sells directly to on-site consumers differently than they zone a microbrewery that sells packaged beer to retailers. You can kind of zone the cannabis industry in the same way. So Office of Cannabis Management does have a local government guide that I talked about a little bit earlier that's super helpful for this. And in that guide, there's a zoning chart that explains all the types of activities that cannabis businesses might undertake and some recommended existing zoning categories. There's also a local approval process. So local governments play a role in the licensing process. They're kind of the final approval check on these cannabis businesses nearing a state license for operation. Once an applicant has been vetted by the Office of Cannabis Management and is selected for the verification process, they're then required to receive your approval or certification for zoning compliance before they can continue and actually operate their business. The Office of Cannabis Management will notify you or the local government, whoever is running this registration process, when an applicant intends to operate within the jurisdiction and request that certification. So if the township does take on this task, the local unit of government has 30 days to respond. And if not, the Office of Cannabis Management can issue that license anyways. So if you are planning on taking on these regulations, you want to make sure that you're responding in a timely manner. But the Office of Cannabis Management cannot issue a license if the local government has indicated that that person is not in compliance with zoning ordinances or other ordinances within the town. There's also a local retail registration process. So once the licensing process begins, local government registration applies to cannabis retailers or other cannabis businesses seeking a retail endorsement. Again, retail isn't something that a lot of townships are going to experience, but just in case they might, I'm going to run through kind of what that retail registration might look like. So the local governments must issue a retail registration license after verifying that the business has a valid license from Office of Cannabis Management. They have paid their registration fees or renewal fees with the local government, which can be $500 for an application fee or $1,000 for the renewal registration fee. And the business is found to be in compliance with the Chapter 342 of Adult Use Cannabis and other local ordinances. And if applicable, the business is current on all property taxes and assessments for the retail location. Obviously, you can refuse a registration or certification license to any business or individual who is not in compliance with any of those requirements. Now, if you do choose to take on these responsibilities of regulation, there is an inspection process as well. So local governments must conduct compliance checks for these cannabis and hemp businesses holding retail registrations at least once per calendar year. And what you'll do during those checks is an age verification procedure and compliance and make sure they're in compliance with applicable ordinances. So it's kind of like a sting operation at a bar. You want to make sure that they're not selling to people who are under 21, and then make sure they're in compliance with any local ordinances that you might have. The Office of Cannabis Management will maintain the inspection authority to verify the operations or product requirements and any other requirements of the Chapter 342, just because they're just more equipped to handle the issues, whether somebody's selling THC that's maybe too strong or things like that. They're just more equipped to handle that kind of thing. So that would not be our responsibility. And now, if you want to say no thanks to all of this, actually, it's too much work, we don't want to have to deal with it, you can transfer your regulation duties to the county. If it just seems too much, any local authority can be transferred to the county by resolution. So we're working on a sample resolution right now, and it should be available soon on our website. But if not, if you don't want to transfer to the county, you'll want to establish an ordinance on cannabis businesses so you can have local control and make sure you're implementing that local control across the board, as I've described in this presentation. Also, the issuance of local certification and registrations for these cannabis businesses will be covered by your local ordinances, and it'll just make everything a lot easier if you have a local ordinance defining all of these terms. So if you do choose to transfer to the county, you'll want to let the Office of Cannabis Management know that you're doing that, because they reached out and let me know that they want to be aware of that information. All right, so that is everything for today. Let me see, escape out of here, and I will stop sharing. Let me see if there's any questions. No questions so far. Does anybody have any questions at all? Well, great. All right. Well, if you do have questions that you just don't want to blurt out here, feel free to call or email me, and I'll get back to you with that. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you all at the district meetings. So thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.